I was already like on the path of self-healing, different modalities, different things like that. And it kind of just made a perfect match, right? So I went to get your services, a little skeptical at first, right? Like everyone else. But what I really noticed is that my life completely improved. It took like a 360 turn. I had certain issues that had been going on for years. Ever since I gave birth to my son in 2017, I always had a persistent backache. Always. Like it never went away. And also my right knee, I'm sorry, my right knee and my right back. So I stopped running for a long time because I couldn't move my knee anymore. And what was very intriguing, during the first treatment is that both of those things went away. And I started to run again. Like for the first time, I ran 4 miles, I believe it was, like maybe a week after the session. And to me, that was like a miracle, right? Because for all these years, I couldn't use my knee. Okay, every time I go to your office, I experience something cool. I discover different things about myself. I'm reconnecting with all of the talents I already have. Because for a second I forgot I was a painter and I was a dancer and that I was doing all these things before. And life got on the way and I kind of like lost my center. But when I came to biomagnetism, I kind of reclaimed those parts of me that make me so unique. And so part of my life was able to and be enhanced, right? Because they were already there. But now it's like, okay, now they're really part of me and they're not going to go away anymore.
I've had this chronic flow of mucus in my chest and from my head, and I've been coughing and on antibiotics and prednisone since February to relieve myself from this congestion, which I don't feel right now. And on top of that, I had this wonderful experience where this lymph node, this lymph gland, I think it's emptying because it's been so hard that it hurt me to wear a bra. I can actually feel the fluid moving and moving down. I don't hurt here anymore. So I'm thrilled. I can't believe it. It's great.
Well, I can credit Moses with literally saving my life. I was at very, very high risk for heart attack and stroke, and got on the phone with the office. Moses himself stopped what he was doing. He got on the phone, talked to me. I said, I was diagnosed with a blood clot. This is what's going on. I was taking blood thinners, shots in my stomach, $64 per injection, twice a day, plus pills. They were drawing my blood. My blood was not thinning. Nothing was working. And they said, don't move, don't drive, keep your legs elevated. You're at high risk for heart attack or stroke. Now that to me was very scary. And so I talked to Moses, and of course I was very skeptical. I said, well, isn't there, it sounds so ridiculous now knowing about biomagnetism, but there's metal in my blood. Isn't that going to be something if we're putting magnets around? Is that going to move the clot? I don't want to have a stroke here. And he said, believe me, if I thought you were going to die in my office, I would not let you in my office. That's a direct answer. So anyway, he took me on an emergency basis. He opened up early. I had a friend drive me all the way from San Diego County to his office. I was also having really bad side effects from the blood thinners, absolutely miserable on many levels. Within an hour, those side effects began to subside. By the next morning, all the side effects were gone. But the best part is my leg, the swelling went down by probably 80% within 24 hours and about 95% within 72 hours. I only had to do 3 sessions with him. And I have the medical proof because I then went to get a CAT scan. And this was at the end of the end of the day of the first treatment. So literally 9 hours later, I went to get a CAT scan with CTA contrast. And it did show that the blood clot had broken off and had gone into my right lung. It was very close to the pulmonary artery. It was that close to having a stroke or a heart attack. Wow. That close. It was like maybe a little over a centimeter away from the pulmonary artery. And they said, but they didn't put me in the hospital. They said it seems that the edges are malformed as if it's not really a solid blood clot. And I thought, I know what's happening. It's actually dissolving and breaking up just as Moses said it would. So it literally saved my life. I cannot recommend this treatment enough to you about the importance of it. So it's really, really amazing. And I thank you for what you do. We appreciate it.
Wonderful. Well, again, thank you very much all for being here. And, here's a sad reality of life, but today's not about getting down, it's about solutions. And that is that every single day, so many people wake up sick and tired of being sick and tired. And they're wishing for health and purpose and peace of mind and a life that finally feels like theirs. And if this sounds like your life, well, or you know someone, and we usually do know someone or some people that are struggling, well, I'm glad that you're here because this is definitely what we're going to talk about. It's definitely for you. On the flip side, some feel great and amazing and understand that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And so if this sounds like you, well, you're also definitely in the right place. So, today my goal is to show you how to immediately improve your overall quality of life and of your loved ones using professional medical biomagnetic pair therapy science and 5 essential biomagnetic formulas that you'll be able to learn and use right away. So by the end of this course, you'll learn how to self-apply some type of biomagnetism to relieve and prevent pain, to detoxify, to support immune function, to overcome emotional annoyances, and also, more importantly, I think to boost emotional empowerment and growth. You'll also understand how it's possible to achieve optimal wellness without toxic painkillers, over-the-counter pills, supplements, or endless psychotherapy sessions. And if you stay to the end, this is one of you. We're going to raffle this off. This is our little basic biomagnetic kit. So if you live here on the mainland USA, I'm going to ship that off to you. So hope you stick around. So why do I know what I'm talking about? I've been in the healthcare field for, over 28 years now at this point. And, I started, when I was a teenager as a medical assistant at the UCI clinic. And then I was a research assistant at UCSF and Children's Hospital of LA. And then I completed a holistic health practitioner degree from UC Santa Cruz. And then I got into mental health counseling. And then I found biomagnetism. I trained directly by the person who discovered this. His name was Dr. Isaac Goyce. And then I also studied alpha biotics, which I don't talk about much, but just real quickly, if you're wondering what that word even means, we're talking about spinal alignments. People see me do that and they think chiropractic. It's not the same. It looks the same, but it's different. So just so you know that's what I've been up to in the last 28 years. And so what happened with me is that despite years of study, earning degrees and certifications, investing thousands in treatments and supplements and meditation and fasting and diets, and the latest gadgets, I endured a 4.5 year period of just miserable chronic digestive issues. I mean, that was really annoying and frustrating, and nothing seemed to help. And I've wonder if you've ever felt that way or you know someone who has. So what happened with me is that one 25-minute medical biomagnetic pair treatment literally cured me from one day to the next. And I mean, I was just blown away. To me, that was just life altering. And it was that moment that I knew that my life's mission was to share this healing science with others that are seeking safe, natural, powerful, and practical solutions for their well being, and also for others, for their loved ones, because there are people that come through my office that they're like, man, this is amazing. I'm going to get everyone, to come to your office. And guess what? It's very hard to get people. For some reason, it just kind of goes through in one ear and out the other ear. But we're in this together, and my hope is to give you as much as I can, so that you're now touching your community, your loved ones. I'm so passionate about helping diminish pain and suffering in the world that I've authored several books. I've developed a do-it-yourself biomagnetic recalibration method. And then this year, I decided I'm committing myself to providing this free training like clockwork on a monthly basis. So, if you talk to people and they're like, hey, you should look into it, just know that I'm here for you and your friends. Last year, previous years, I would do this talk every so often. But I learned a lot from the pandemic that I could have done more if only I had been doing this talk back then. I think we would have been in a very different, I think a lot of people would have been saved. So I took that, I took that responsibility very seriously, and I said I could do more. And so here I am. So just so you know, the first Wednesday of the month, we're doing this talk. And you're welcome to hop on as many times, because sometimes we understand this information a little bit differently, or you might have questions. So please, by all means, ask away. I'm here for you. And so since 2008, I've been using this advanced biomagnetic knowledge to help thousands with very serious health issues. And after doing this for 28 years, this is what I've learned: that first of all, our bodies have a natural ability to heal, that we can thrive without a single drop of pharmaceutical drugs. At least I have. If you don't know this, I'm gonna brag, and I brag about this. I have not taken a pharmaceutical pill since 1995. I've not. So you can definitely get through life without pills, in my opinion. Uh, our physician friend on here online might disagree with me, but at least that's what has been my experience. Welcome, Dr. Pam. Love you much. I'm glad you're here. So lifestyle habits and beliefs positively and negatively affect our well-being. So that's also very important, that we shouldn't just treat emotions as whatever, it's just emotional. That's super important to understand. And biomagnetism can keep us in biochemical and homeostatic balance, and we can be our own doctors. That's the whole point of why I do what I do, is I'm giving you information, so you take this information and you treat yourself, you help yourself. I've discovered this all the hard way, and you get a chance to cheat and get it the easy way. So the hard way for me was like a 4-year university, internships, more trainings, and then of course, that point where I got sick and was miserable, and here I was chasing every single cure that came my way. And all of that stuff is valuable still. I mean, it's not like I've ignored herbology or anything like that.
With biomagnetism, Moses helped me with some neurological issues associated with West Nile virus. My speech last week, it was a constant stutter. It's obviously much better now. Pain level in all my joints has greatly diminished. My headaches are gone. I had some leg problems, very slow to react. It's back to normal again, and that was after one session. So great experience, and I can't wait to keep on having more of them, because it's been wonderful so far.
And by the way, that was one session. That was 1 week later. That was only 7 days later that happened. And I wonder, how would his life had been had he not done anything, because typically, well, what's his allopathic doctor? I mean, it wasn't for lack of trying. He was miserable that way for a long time. We're talking months and months. But it's generally not the case that, there's going to be an MD that says, by the way, you shouldn't be here. You should go to the magnet guy. What I believe is that he'd still probably be managing this pain like so many people do every day. So there's a pain management problem, and there are many ways people prolong their problems: by denying, by ignoring, by numbing, by masking problems with medications, TV, internet, work, drugs, alcohol, food, and other ways by which people manage the problem. And really, it's not their fault. I mean, that's just how it happens. We, in my case, I've always been the type of person, it's like, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? But there was a 4.5-year period where I was managing. For years, the alarm has been ringing. I mean, this isn't something new. I mean, for many, many years. And, we all had a wake-up call, that the failed pandemic response and misinformation campaign from the government and public health agencies, the censorship of data and medical practitioners, vaccine harms, spike in illness, and more became that wake-up call. And if we're not careful, here's the thing: the supposed wellness solution, drugs and surgeries, they scared us into taking, and maybe things are changing now with this new administration, but for a long time, there was a lot of fear. If we get scared into this, we can get hurt to the point where there is no turnaround. And I can say that for a fact. My father was vaccine injured, And within 2 hours of that vaccine, he blew up in shingles, completely inflamed, which is a very common response. And 12 months later, he's just dead. Okay, so I know that from personal experience. And of course, as a biomagnetic practitioner, I started seeing that, and even with very young people, as soon as the vaccine rolled around. Of course, nowadays in today with Kennedy, heading the health agencies, we're starting to hear that information is trickling out. So, but the problem is this, the damage has been done. What I'm after here is like, what is the solution? What is our next step? Okay, that's what this is about. So, and let's be perfectly clear about the following. In no way, shape, or form am I anti-doctor, nor should this talk be perceived as being anti-medicine or surgery either, okay? So let's be clear about that. And again, I want to reiterate that my aim is to show you that the biomagnetic science exists. It's there. It's something I've been using for 17 years now, and I've seen firsthand how it's helped me. It's how it helped thousands more avoid invasive procedures and potentially toxic pharmaceuticals.
With the magnets, Moses really helped me. I had pancreatic problems and felt great improvement by the second therapy. I had surgery scheduled, but the surgeon then told me everything was perfect and that at this point I no longer need it, and that he would see me in 6 months. I'm not vomiting anymore and I feel more energy. I recommend this to everybody because it's wonderful. I feel really good, thank God and Moses.
Well, that's wonderful. And here's a reality. It's a miracle for her, but it's a loss for the system. And when someone avoids surgery, that's amazing thing for the patient. But the hospital, the surgeon, the anesthesiologist, the pharmacy, and others, that right there, that's a financial loss. And so let's let that sink in. We're talking about healthcare profits from procedures and not prevention. So why you've never heard of this recommendation, unless you are a patient of Dr. Pam, is because they will never say, hey, by the way, go over there first. Okay, that's just not going to happen. We've already stated that. And the system is just simply not designed that way. I mean, and I'm doing my best. Hopefully one day Robert Kennedy's going to call me up and say, hey, I heard about what you do. And he's going to call me and let's put that out into the universe. He's going to say, I saw your video testimonials, we're curious, and let's see how we can change this medical system. That is my dream. But right now, that's not the case. Right now, it's the case that you go get tested, whatever test exists. You take medicines, there's more testing when that doesn't work, and you go back and then they change it, and then maybe you should try this. And yeah, well, it's wonderful when people heal, right? Hey, I had a cold and I no longer had a cold because whatever. But that's not the case for a lot of people. They get into this and then they end up in surgeries and whatnot. So, the important thing in all of this is that, let's understand this, that despite the great scientific and technological advancements in the US and around the world, our suffering hasn't really diminished. In fact, if you look at the data, we're in worse health ranking than, less abundant countries. And so something is clearly has not been right, or something has clearly been wrong. But again, I think one of the super phenomenal and radical things that we're seeing with the new administration is precisely, these things are now being talked about. Might be uncomfortable, but at least now we're seeing some kind of shift. And the idea that medicine or experimental drugs and surgery is a road to wellness, in my opinion, it's limited and dangerous. And this is information that is easily accessible. And according to the CDC website, there's 1.3 million emergency department visits due to adverse pharmaceutical and drug events. I don't know where we're at now. This information was from a few years back, but let's just say that's a big number, okay? And so, and data shows that every year, and perhaps now, at least that's what they're pointing to. I follow Dr. McCullough, Peter McCullough, the cardiologist, and talking about, this sharp rise in cardiac arrest in certain populations and whatnot. So, as it was, the information was that, there's close to 1 million people perishing from iatrogenic death, death by doctor, but who knows? It might be more nowadays, okay? And so it's estimated that in the coming years, that might be even worse, in the millions per year. So, we're already here. So the data is alarming, and it's not just statistics, but real people harmed by the very system meant to help them. And so as a biomagnetic therapist, I see what happens when the conventional pharmaceutical care fails to heal, and in fact, can make things worse in some cases. So I've lived this truth personally. I just told you about, my father. So, and that's why I do this work. And that's why I've started thinking long term. I'm not going to be here forever, and not everyone's going to come to me or to my office. So let me start giving this information to you all so that you can apply to yourself and apply to your loved ones. Okay, my goal here is to help you reclaim control, some form of control in your well-being. And so again, and I stress this, because this conversation is really uncomfortable, or it can be very uncomfortable. One of the things they say is don't talk about church, don't talk about politics. And this is right in line with all of that. This is church and politics all rolled up into one right here. Healthcare really is. So again, the thing is, let's not blame, let's empower. That's what this is about. And I want to give you something that most people are not going to hear from, watching the news. Whatever news you watch, it's just not going to be there. I was blessed and fortunate enough that a Spanish television host did interview me, so that interview was released in January. But I mean, that was just one time. So it kind of happens like this, and then people forget about it. But that's why I do what I do. I'm here like clockwork, so people can just keep talking about it and inform themselves.
In 2023, I started getting a lot of calls from his first grade teacher saying, something's wrong with your son. Like he's very spacey. He doesn't concentrate. He doesn't pay attention. And that's where my journey really started about getting my son diagnosed. So I took him to the psychologist where he was tested for various things. So he came back with high probability ADHD. So pretty much a diagnosis of ADHD. After his diagnosis, I was told to go see a psychiatrist to be able to medicate him. So of course I didn't do that. I just kind of tried my best to make sure he got good nutrition. He went to sleep on time, all the things that we normally do as parents. And as soon as I did that, I realized it wasn't really working, but I continued with behavioral therapy, any other therapy that could help him concentrate and make him better. It got a little better, right? But there was still that issue of he wasn't concentrating enough. That's when the journey into figuring out what else I could do started. I didn't really start placing the magnets on Mars until the training I took. It was June 2024. One time he went to sleep like in less than 3 minutes. And that was like a total miracle because that never happened. And he liked it too. He was like, Mom, when you place a magnet, I was gone. And then when he would get sick, the symptoms of like the sore throat or the coughing or the any type of reaction he was having to possibly getting sick, I would place the immunity formula on him. And one time we had like this incredible experience where he was home and he was sick, and I put him to bed and I placed the immunity formula. So for sure, I was making arrangements that I was going to call in sick the next day for my work, and he wasn't going to go to school. He wakes up the next day, and I told him, Mars, I guess you're going to go to grandma's house today while I finish my class, and then I'll come back. And he said, but I feel better. I can go to school. I don't have to stay home. So he went back to school. So that means that he was only sick for a period of hours while he went to sleep. Before he would get sick for like 2 weeks, and I had like absence intervention requests from the school saying, hey, why is he absent so much? Okay, so when I saw that we could do that when he was getting sick, I would place him and he was feeling better. That's when it finally clicked in my head. Well, why am I not using this for like his ADHD? So I started doing that, I'm going to say about last year, like in November, December. And then all of a sudden I start getting like all these notifications from school, like congratulations, your son made it to 100% of this and 100% of that. And I was like, what? And eventually, this past week, no, 2 weeks ago, he actually got an award. That's when it was like a big moment for me because, I'm still very skeptical about what the magnets are doing. I'm still like, I don't know if it's gonna work, but let's try it, right?
That's right. What I love about this is I've never treated the child. The mom just said, you know what, I'm going to start applying this to my kid, and that's super smart. And skepticism is smart, okay, but it's not smart if it costs you your healing, and not if you rob yourself of opportunities. Let's talk about medical biomagnetism and how it works, okay? So let's just go through a little rundown, and I think we need to understand, first of all, what are we made of? And so we're made of, or we're comprised of 11 body systems. They're the integumentary system. Uh, and by the way, we're talking about skin, nails, hair, the muscular system, the nervous system, skeletal, endocrine, cardiovascular, the immune, the respiratory, digestive, urinary, and reproductive systems. And then if we ask ourselves, okay, well, then what is that stuff made up of? Well, that stuff is made up of tissues. We're made up of 4 different types of tissues. And so we say, okay, well, then what is that stuff made up of? Well, tissues are made of cells. The average adult male has around 36 trillion cells, while the average adult female has about 28 trillion cells. Okay. And so if we ask ourselves, well, what are these cells made up of? Okay. Well, we think about molecules, distinct molecules like lipids, proteins, carbohydrates, nucleic acids. And in terms of molecules, well, we're mostly water. That's the molecule that we're mostly made up of. And so if we ask ourselves, well, then what are molecules made up of? Well, they're the stuff, they're formed by the elements. If you remember the periodic table, these things all, not all of these things, but, like less than 30, somewhere in the mid 20 range of elements, all combined make up this phenomenal body of ours. And, we're primarily made of oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen. And so if we ask ourselves, well, then what are these things made up of? What are these elements made of? Well, they're composed of subatomic particles called atoms, which are, composed of protons and neutrons and electrons. And of course, there's more subatomic particles, but I think this is a good stopping point. Now, the foundation of biomagnetism, and this is important, is understanding how the magnetic energy fields interact with the water energy in our bodies, with the molecules, with the atoms. In other words, the magnetic field has a beneficial effect on our biochemistry. And more specifically, what we're talking about, or we can refer to it as the potential hydrogen balance. So that is what biomagnetism is about. It is about maintaining proper energy, biochemical or pH balance in your body. And, this supports optimal function of all cells. So if your body is in pH neutrality, your body will function as best as it can, depending on the circumstances. So pH imbalances represent harmful acid and alkaline, or another way to think about it is positive and negative energy charges. That's what acidity and alkalinity in the body is, harmful energy charges. A little bit of history, just so you kind of know how this all came to be. In the 1970s, Dr. Richard Broingmeyer discovered that you can apply a magnetic field to the body and detect specific pH distortions of organs, glands, and other tissues. There's a certain reflex that takes place, and that's how you're able to detect the pH distortion taking place there. Now, very important that we mustn't think in terms of like we urinate in a cup and we put a litmus paper and then now we know the pH of whatever's in the urine. We're talking about the placement of a magnet and seeing a physical change in the body that says, hey, there's a pH distortion taking place here. And it so happens that Dr. Goyce, my teacher, came across this information and his wondering was like, well, if you can detect can you correct? And that's a great question, because that's what led him to his experimenting. And he did find out that you can detect and correct. And so he named his discovery the biomagnetic pair. Hence the name of the science of the therapy that I practice is the medical biomagnetic pair science. And so he recognizes that there's specific negative and positive magnetic fields that they're working in pairs, because these pairs, the reason this took place is because pathogenic microorganisms, dysfunctions, toxic accumulations, emotional imbalances, reservoirs in the body are creating those pH distortions. So what this means is that when there are the pathogens or the infections, when there's dysfunctions, those toxins, what it's doing is it's creating a specific pH distortion of anatomical structure. So in this case, I put little plus symbol and a negative symbol here at the thymus, another one at the heart, here on the ascending colon, and another on the descending. This is just to illustrate what I'm talking about. So we would then place magnets of positive and negative charges directly over these pH distorted anatomical structures. And so medical biomagnetism is used to detect and diagnose and correct pH balance by applying these negative magnetic fields over those cells. And in a pH balanced organism, infection causing microorganisms cannot thrive. Dysfunctions are corrected. The body works better to process and eliminate toxins. Emotional states improve, and more. So in summary, pH balance leads to homeostasis, improving all mind, body, and spirit functions. And homeostasis is the body's natural self-regulating process by which an organism can maintain internal stability while adjusting to changing conditions. But of course, this is important. We have to participate. Science is not a substitute for inaction or poor decision making. Our lifestyles matter. And furthermore, if we have traumatic injury and we've severed our spinal cord, we're not lizards, we're not going to grow it back. Okay, so let's kind of be realistic about what we're talking about. But you'd be surprised, I've met people who are like in their 40s, 50s, and they found my office, and they're saying, but I was diagnosed with asthma since I was 5 years old, and it just disappeared. Okay, so those are like some amazing testimonials that have been really mind-blowing to me. And again, if she would have called me on the phone and said, I've got asthma, promise me you're going to cure me, let's just look, that's not reality. Okay, but I do my absolute best in delivering a science to you. And of course, if we combine this with lifestyle, who knows what's possible. So if we're going to diminish pain and suffering in the world, we all of us, we all need simple healthcare tools and knowledge. So this is why I'm going to give you these 5 essential biomagnetic formulas so you can start using them like right away, to reduce pain, to optimize your life. So you might want to take some notes here. So here we go. First, well, we're going to require magnets, and I'll tell you where you can get magnets by the end of tonight. But if you have magnets already, make sure they're at least of 1,000 Gauss. Suppose that there's physical trauma like localized inflammation. Let's suppose maybe you've cut yourself, or that you have a scratch, a sprain, a strain, a bruise, fracture, broken bones, an animal insect bite, or a specific pain like headache or stomach pain, or maybe there's tissue growth like a cyst or a tumor. So what can be a general biomagnetic strategy for this? Okay, now we're not talking about medical biomagnetism like I just talked to you about, because what I do is I diagnose and I treat very specific pH distortions. What I'm about to give you here is what could be a general thing that anyone can just try at home and see some shifts. Okay, well, what we're going to use is this particular formula here. And in the little booklet, the ones that come in with our magnets, the illustrations are in there. There's a little booklet and it looks like this. And inside is this image precisely. And it instructs you, it shows you how to use this formula. So what are we looking at here? You're going to apply a positive field to the left kidney, a positive field to the right kidney, and a negative field of the magnet, or the negative surface of the magnet, and you're going to place it on the site of the problem. What you think the problem is, where it hurts, okay? Sometimes it doesn't hurt, let's just assume someone who was diabetic, they don't generally have pain in their pancreas, but we know, hey, that's a problem at the pancreas. So that's how I would propose you use it. Now to talk about the illustrations, when you're looking at illustrations, what it's telling you, it's showing you that that is the magnetic field that goes towards the body. Okay, and so here we have a model, a live application. So we see this woman, and she's got a magnet on her face, and so there on the illustration it has a positive. And sometimes this is what throws people off, right? Because if the illustration says positive, but you see this magnet says negative, and remember, we're talking about what touches the body. Same thing here. You see the illustration has that negative symbol, but out here you see the positive. But on the other side of the magnet, you see the negative is what's touching her body. So this is the only formula that you choose where you're going to place the magnetic field. All other formulas have a fixed placement. So, here are some potential uses. Like, how could you use this? Well, let's just suppose lacking concentration. That's a very common thing. A lot of people say, I feel like I don't learn things well. I feel like I'm forgetful. I feel like I'm reading something, but I just never really understood. Okay, well, this could be one of the applications of this particular formula, where you would put, let's just say, um, maybe you put the negative on your forehead, or if because there was trauma, maybe you bumped your head last week, and you hit yourself there. If I were you, I would put the magnet there. Cholesterol issues, you can put the negative on the liver, blood sugar levels, negative on the pancreas. So how you position yourself, well, you can do it however you want. Most people will lay down their face up, and you can place the magnet directly to the skin or over the clothes. It doesn't have to be on the skin, because the magnetic fields are strong enough to penetrate clothing. And you can be standing or you can be sitting. So, but low impact motion. You wouldn't go scale Mount Everest and expect them to still be there by the end of your climb. So you can do simple things. The magnets will stay in place because magnets are heavy. And by the way, there's these washers that come with our magnets, and they're used to hold magnets in place, right? Rather than use all sorts of tape, just use a little metal, and it's going to stick to the magnet on the other side, and your clothing is holding it together. But I propose that you use the magnet closest to your body, rather than imagine the metal, the washer was on the inside and the magnet on the outside. We wouldn't want to do it that way. This would be a better way of doing that. Our magnets are rectangular, but it doesn't matter whether they're applied to the body vertically, horizontally, or diagonally. So this is what this particular formula looks like in real time. So there's one magnet that goes under the kidney. That's a positive one. And the other one, and you can already see that she's got the negative magnet on her forehead. Here's another. She's going to do it for the neck. So it looks like she just placed it on her low back, no, on the kidneys, and now she's putting it on her low back, and now she's putting some on her neck. Now, this is to illustrate that you can use more than one negative magnetic field, with enough magnets. You can say, well, the foundational ones are the positives on the kidney, and then you can place the negatives wherever else you perceive pain or problems. Now, regarding toxins, they're a constant. We're constantly bombarded by toxins in the environment, in, the preservative in foods, medicine, supplements, the toxins that our body just produces, what we call metabolic waste, and other. And so to help the body in detoxifying, what we are going to use are 3 magnets. So what we do here is we're going to apply a negative field on the lungs. So that's just in your back. I mean, the lungs are pretty big. So, I would just say, however far you can reach, if you're sliding magnet. Now, let's suppose you can't. Like, if you have limited range of your hand, what I would propose is just set the magnet down and then just lay directly over it. I think that'd be very simple, or you can have someone help you. And then you place a negative on the right kidneys. I'm sorry, on the right kidney. And then you put a positive here in front on the liver. The liver is a pretty big organ. So just anywhere, just follow, under the breast, in that area where the ribs are, or, that edge of the rib. That's a good placement. That's absolutely fine. We don't have to be super precise, like bring out a ruler and measure millimeters and things like that. No, just so long as you're in the general area, you're absolutely fine. With enough magnets, you're able to apply several of these formulas at the same time. So, for example, if you said, I'm going to apply the one that's for pain, and the other one, and now we're going to do it with detoxification. Well, there's an overlap with magnets on the right kidney. So what I propose is that you join the magnets side by side, as you see in this picture, and then you apply it to your kidney. Just make sure that the positive is closer to the spine in that position, and then the negative is on the outside or the lateral position. Okay, so that's the way I propose you do that, and that's what it looks like in a real application. You're just sliding the magnet underneath the kidney. Okay, very simple. Okay, now, so whether you're on the verge of getting sick or you're already finding something, there's a biomagnetic placement that helps activate your immune system. And what we do for that is we place a positive magnet on the adrenal gland and the negative on the left sacral plexus, that we're just talking about next to your butt. There's a bundle of nerves there. That's where you're going to place the negative magnet. And here's a video illustrating that. So, I mean, not very complicated. Just find those locations, make sure you've got the right polarity facing, and that's it. It's as simple as that. Let's talk about emotional intelligence, and I think this is the thing that most people tend to ignore. When I talk to people about they have magnets and they're asking me questions about how to use it, and they tell me, like, I used the other day I had a headache, but I used, and they all just go by default, go to the pain one. And that's absolutely fine. I mean, no judgment here, but what I want to say is that all of the formulas are super important. Who's to say that you don't have a headache because you're stressed out about XYZ? So developing and nurturing our emotional intelligence should be a part of everyday life. So we must be conscious of our emotional state and work to recalibrate it, just as we do with physical imbalances. And so there's two emotional biomagnetic formulas. Emotional challenges formula, which I propose that you use it when you're feeling overwhelmed, discouraged, or you're facing difficulties. And this supports shifting from struggle and survival mode to balance. Then the other one is we're going to refer to it as the emotional solutions formula. I propose you use this when you're feeling when you're feeling empowered already, but you want to take it to the next level. When you're already feeling grateful and focused on goals, this enhances that mindset and that mindset of growth and expansion and thriving. And that's why I say, this is so important that we never ignore these, because all of us, we can all improve our emotional intelligence. Okay, all of us. And so how to do this, if we look at the challenges one, you're going to put a negative magnet on the right thyroid gland and a positive on the right infraorbital nerve. So that's just nerves there right directly under your eye. Here's an example of that. There it is on the thyroid gland, and there it is right under the eye. And those magnets are pretty big, so you're in the right place. And there it is on the thyroid gland. So the emotional solutions has an overlap because you're placing the positive underneath the infraorbital nerve, but then you're moving the one that went on the thyroid, it goes down to the parasternal lymphatic vessel. Positive on the right infraorbital nerve, and then this one down next to the right paralymphatic vessel. And I want to show you this is an example of some people have very thin faces, and so they're like, it's impossible. I can't hold the magnet in place. I don't know what to do. It's driving me nuts. Well, grab a piece of cloth, get a washer, and have the washer hold it in place with that piece of fabric, whatever it is that you choose to use. And there it is being put on the parasternal lymphatic vessel, also using a washer. Here are some of the frequently asked questions I get. Well, first of all, you might be thinking already, wait, so how often should I do this? Well, I encourage you to just have magnets as part of your routine. Just as you take a shower, I mean, I wouldn't say you could use it every day, but I would say turn this into a routine. Maybe use it one time a week, maybe twice a week. Maybe you start off the week like maybe it's Sunday and I'm getting ready for my week, and then maybe it's Friday or Wednesday and you're like, oh man, this is what a horrible week. I'm ready for some magnets. What we're talking about is your own self-care. You're not going to overdose yourself. So, but I would say at the bare minimum, use it once a week or once a month. The idea is just use it. So, of course, if you're experiencing pain, well, you definitely want to use it at least once daily. Once daily is good enough until the issue is resolved. So keep magnets on for at least 30 minutes. Okay, this is what constitutes a session. And 30 minutes is just in general. Okay, 30 minutes is good enough. Time begins when all the magnets of your formulas are in place. When should I do it? What time of the day? The easiest, most convenient, and effective time to apply these magnets is at bedtime. Because there's this excuse. I never have enough time. Um, and of course, you could do it any time. But if what I don't want, and because I've heard this many times, oh, I haven't used them because there's no time. Ladies and gentlemen, if you sleep, there's time because you could just apply the magnets as you're falling asleep. Okay, if they slide off of you, well, no big deal. There's no problem with having magnets on your body or next to your body for a prolonged period of time. It's not going to undo any of the benefit, okay? It just might be annoying because that happened to me not too long ago where I fell asleep with magnets, and before you know it, I'm already asleep but rolling around, and then I feel that stabbing pain of that magnet right on my rib. Okay, well, I just threw it on the floor. Well, don't throw them on the floor, but just move it aside, okay? So where do I put magnets? Okay, maybe you might be thinking, well, I have a particular issue like blood pressure or diabetes or cancer or arthritis or stress or whatever it is. You might be thinking, well, okay, well, you've given me 5 formulas, so which one should I use? Okay, well, the simplest and the simple quick start approach is regardless of the situation, the condition, the diagnosis, the signs, the symptoms, is to apply all 5 biomagnetic formulas that have been presented to you today. Again, I give you formula for pain or relief or dysfunction, for detoxing, for immune support, for both emotional challenges and emotional solutions. This is what I propose as our quick start. But really, we're talking about 4 of the 5 formulas because you're either feeling challenged, like life is tough for me right now, or you're feeling like life is beautiful, but there are annoyances. Okay. So you're really just going to decide which of 4 of these 5 formulas am I using. Okay. But never ignore the emotional ones. Now, of course, to answer this very same question, where do I put the magnets for XYZ, pain, illness, disease, diagnosis, etc.? Well, here's the advanced approach, and that relies on a precise diagnostic. So I would invite you to either come for in-person treatment, or if you're not around the corner and it's impossible for you to be here, what I would suggest is that you choose the Biomag scan service. So this is where I show you exactly where to place the magnets for targeted results. And here's an illustration of what it looks like. I create an illustration and it shows you where the magnet placement is. So you bring out your computer or your phone, or you go to Staples or wherever and print out a copy, whatever's convenient for you. But see, now time and distance, we're beyond that part because technology allows us to shoot that over to you. All you need is your magnets and you self-apply. I'm going to take a little detour right now and say that I do distance healing session. But of course, not everyone is open to that. And just real quickly, what is distance healing? Well, distance healing, and we're using like quantum physics principles that we're able through surrogate, like I can do a scan for any of you, and then I could self-apply magnets, and now I'm focusing my intentionality towards you, directly for you, and you're receiving that same healing as if you had come to my office. But I'm taking this detour just because I see one or two that are here tonight that have done that. So I kind of feel brave enough to say that exists. But in general, it's not something I talk about because as it is, what we've talked about already might seem like well, that's quite a stretch, okay? But again, that's why I provide these video testimonials for you so you can see that we have been able to help people with this science, okay? So what if I put a negative where a positive should be or vice versa? Let's just say I got it all wrong. Well, you cannot make any ailment or disease worse by inverting the magnetic polarities. You're simply just not going to have the optimal results. What if you feel strange sensations during the application of the magnets? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? So sometimes it does happen that you feel tingling, or maybe all of a sudden there's this the pain that was already there might have increased, right? But experience tells us that after these 30-minute application, the temporary increase in pain decreases. And I would say do not take the magnets off until time is complete. So, what are some possible reactions of the magnets? Well, we've already talked about what their objective is or what they're doing to the body. But, if we think about this question in terms of like, what might I feel afterwards? Well, some people do feel detoxification. Like some people will go to the restroom frequently. You might feel tired. Like, why do I feel like I want to do absolutely nothing? Some have reported feeling emotionally sensitive, like where they just want to cry about everything. So that might happen. There's this phenomenal reset taking place inside of the body. So yeah, I mean, these things do happen. None of it is a signal of something bad happening. It's just that is what healing is. And only in the movies is healing this amazing thing where after an hour and a half, no one has problems because the sky opened up. There was this big light of sunshine that hit us. There's angels playing music in the background. That's not real life. Real life is actually healing is a very painful process. That's what might happen. And of course, when we use biomagnetism regularly, this isn't going to happen all the time. It's generally in the beginning where these big reactions take place. So what about implants? Well, yeah, it's safe, definitely, regardless of implants, you can use magnets. But what I would say is this, if we're talking about mechanical implants such as pacemaker, maybe I should call it electromagnetic implants, then or anything that has battery operated type implant, don't put the magnet next to it, directly on it or next to it. This could drain the battery or affect its settings, but yes, you can still use magnets. And in one of my trainings, there was a emergency room doctor that attended, and he was saying, when pacemakers are having problems, they actually use magnetic fields to kind of reset it. So, but look, I don't want you to get into any problems. I don't want you to have any problems for yourself or anyone. Let's just say, to be on the safe side, just don't put it on it or directly next to it. But I think we've already covered most of the placements. They're generally not where pacemakers tend to be, okay? But I wouldn't want you to think, oh yeah, let me place the negative magnet there, okay? So let's just avoid all that. What about pregnancy and biomagnetism? Absolutely. Biomagnetism supports life and proper body function. Therefore, it's beneficial during pregnancy. But here's the thing. Do not get a pair of magnets side by side and place them on the uterus thinking, oh, that'll make my baby grow bigger. No, because this could change the energy of the uterus, and it can cause an abortion, okay? But yes, I see pregnant women come through my office as part of their prenatal care. And if you've not checked out my YouTube channel, The Philosophy of Biomagnetism by me, Moses Durazo, there is a video testimonial I have there of this woman who used magnets because she was infertile, she was not conceiving, and then after the fact, um, anyways, you would like that video testimonial. I think that was super awesome. But check it out, join me, follow me. And of course, I always encourage all of you, if something phenomenal happened that you had a great experience, share it, share it for the world to listen to, because I could talk about it and this person came and this has happened. No, but you guys aren't actors, and if people see how genuine and honest this is, you're not helping me, you're helping other people take this very important step. And if you don't want to be directly on camera because you're shy, well, just, I don't know, point it towards a frame in your house, and then just talk. Hey, this is what happened to me. How about lowering bad cholesterol? Yeah, because again, biomagnetism is about restoring balance, supporting the body's natural healing mechanisms. But again, lifestyle matters. Absolutely. Not only what goes into our body that we eat or drink, but even the things that we watch on TV, or maybe our friendships or the quality of conversations that we have. All of these things can create dysfunction in our body. Someone once asked me, can biomagnetism align the spine? Well, it's interesting because commonly people have one leg that is longer or shorter than the other, and this definitely can indicate spinal misalignments. But it's actually quite easy that we're able to place magnets in certain locations, and then that gets corrected. So if you've ever talked to a chiropractor, or if you're a chiropractor yourself, that you think in terms of subluxation. And so then there's this physical motion that takes place to correct it. And then after the alignment, you'll see, oh, the legs are even. But then the person comes back 3 days later and it's uneven again. And so one of the things, even though I believe that chiropractic is important, what I'm saying here is there's no such thing as replacing, that this is better than something else. Okay. I also don't want you to understand that. I'm not saying, hey, this is the magical thing for everyone. What I'm proposing is that it becomes a part of your wellness care and your kit and approach, because it all matters. Okay. It's all important. It just so happens we're our focus here is on our biochemistry. But yeah, there are times where, like, hey, I fell off a horse and your spine is definitely all crooked. I would definitely propose go to a chiropractic, go to Alpha Biotics or whatever, stretch, yoga. I forget the name of that other stretching thing, Pilates. That's what I was thinking about. I mean, all of those things are super amazing by all means. Is there anything that biomagnetism cannot help? And the answer is yes, absolutely. There are situations where the disease has caused irreversible damage. But what I do want to say about this is that in the last 17 years of working with thousands of people, the people that I did meet that were on their final hours or days of life, the family did call me and say, wow, their quality of life was greatly enhanced. And for me, the way I view the world is that is healing. That yes, we were able to help to some degree. Okay. So I just got a call like last week, and someone was saying, hey, we've got someone who's got stage 4 cancer or whatnot. And there's that wondering of should we do this or not? And of course, I think what they were trying to hear from me is that I'm gonna promise you that there is a cure. And again, that's not what I do, but I definitely would say, listen, let's just give it a shot. Okay. So that's also what I want to say. It doesn't matter who you are, this is appropriate. Whether you think there's a cure or not, there's definitely quality of life that can be obtained. What about in emergency situations? Okay, well, yes, most definitely for acute medical emergencies where immediate medical intervention is required, such as a heart attack, a stroke, broken bones, snake bites, deep wounds. Yes, go to the hospital, call 911. By all means, do all that stuff first. But let's just suppose you're on your way to the emergency room and you're sitting there in the emergency room, waiting room. Then by all means, if you're thinking about it or if your relative is thinking about it, go with your magnets, because the other day someone said I was at the emergency room for 4.5 hours and they could have applied magnets, in that time. And it's really interesting because they said 2 hours into no, when they were getting called in, it was like 4 hours, and then they're like, you know what? I don't even feel that bad anymore. So they left. But what I'm saying is, have your magnets with you. Use them, okay? If you have other types of magnets, you're able to use them, but warning, some might be mislabeled, meaning the positive is labeled as a negative and vice versa. Make sure there are over 1,000 gauze, okay? So we've covered a lot of information. Is there any other questions that come to mind?
Is it possible for you to dive a little bit deeper into process of you finding the problematic areas in the body?
So in short, think about the presentation when I said about Dr. Richard Broingmeyer placing a negative field to pH distorted parts. There's a shortening or lengthening that takes place in the body. But just think about biomagnetic pairs. The Biomagnetic Research Center said, oh, wait a minute, there's a map here. So if there's coronavirus, is there streptococcus, is there whatever, staph infections, there's going to be a certain pair. So I hope that was helpful to you, Agatha. So one of the things to have in mind, as we're winding down here is think about, what did you like the best about tonight? And you have a very specific question. I love that question because you're a healer. You're already thinking, how can we get more specific? You got that scientist mind. I need to know more. I love that. So the question is, well, how do you want to be helped? I'm here to help you however you want to be helped. So this is what's going on. We do have an opportunity on June 20th, Friday through Sunday. I'm doing a 3-day training. You're not leaving this training without knowing exactly how it is to diagnose people. The last time I delivered this training, I think it was a 1 day, and I can teach you in 1 day, but what happens when you go to sleep and you wake up? You learned it, but there's this thing that creeps in, I think, to all of us, like, I don't remember or I forgot. Even though you took notes and there's step by step and my books tell you, and all of that information is there. So what I decided is we're doing 3 days of like hands-on practice. You're going to master, you're for sure going to be a master by the end of it. So what does it look like? There's a 3-day hands-on training. It's going to be here in the office. I have space for 1 or 2 more people. We're pretty much filled up. So if you want to take advantage of that, you're welcome. I'd love it. I'd love it if you joined us. So you get the biomagnetic kit, which is the 4 books. They're all in here, everything you need to get going, all of the instructions, all of the books. If I cease to exist tonight, just know that you can pick up those books and you know exactly where I'm coming from, and the instructions and directions are all in there. We're just going to go through all of that with practice in this training. So there's all of these books, a lot of information. I'll give you a certificate of completion.
What I enjoy about the
Check this
training
out.
is that it didn't feel like I was in a biology class, because biology is like one of not my strong subjects. It's my only C in my entire transcript. So I'm not a bio person, period, at all. So then when you started doing the training, it was very simple. I really understood the concept even without having a pre-med or anything else background. So it was very thorough. I felt like we got a little bit of lecture, but the best part was the practice part, right? That was when we actually got to place the magnets on other people, and when we got to see the movement of the body, right? What it needs to do for us to be able to place the magnets. To me, that was like an eye-opening moment, because I've never experienced anything like that. I never touched strangers' bodies. So when we started doing that, it almost felt like, oh my gosh, I could totally be a healer, because I can feel the energy from the person. Once I did the training, then I started placing it on people. It's been incredible. Seriously, like that day for me, I would say stands as one of the best days of my life in 2024. I got in my car and I felt this joy, and I felt like I had discovered or uncovered something that it was like this secret that's there, but nobody knows about it. I just felt so happy that day, and I got in the car, I'm blasting the music, and I was like, life is just so beautiful filled with moments of learning, but more than anything, moments of learning, but sharing what you learn and helping others heal. And to me, that was like, this is it. This is really what I need to do. It's simple. I don't have to poke anybody. I don't have to stretch anyone. I don't have to do anything other than being gentle, right? When I put them on, and then just have the magnets do whatever they need to do. And the feedback I get from everybody is like, whoa, I never expected anything like this from magnets. It almost seemed like I was given permission to go out in the world and help others. It's so cool to have arrived at this particular moment. So I have another tool in my toolbox to be able to help others. It's almost like getting like an accelerated master's program in biomagnetism, right? Because you get everything, you get to practice, you see the functions, and then you go apply it. So you're gonna save yourself a lot of time and a lot of just nonsense courses that sometimes you have to take to get to the next level. It was more like, okay, you got understanding, a little bit of lecture, and now you can move on, right? So it was very quick, it was effective, and I was able to use it on others like right away.
You know, one of the things that she said that I really liked is that I feel like I got the permission to be a healer, and we all are. We all are. My goal is to make it as simple as humanly possible, because there's what, 8 billion people on Earth. I'm not even going to remotely get to a small, tiny fraction of the population. I'm going to try till the very end. But you know, the idea here is, you know, touching other people, giving this, and tap into your inner healer. You know, how would your life change if you develop the biomagnetic skills to help others, to possibly save someone's life, maybe even your own, improve the quality of your life, deepen your sense of purpose? Imagine the impact that could have on yourself and those around you. I mean, I just talked to a gentleman today, he's retired, who was, you know, a mechanic all his life, and he found my work and he's just like, this is amazing. And people are just like blown away, like, my goodness, I didn't know you knew how to do this stuff. I'm amazed all the time. So you get a lot in this training. And the reality of this training is really priceless. I mean, you think about this, the woman we just talked about this training, she was able to help her child avoid the medication the psychiatrist wanted to give them, was starting to use magnets, and all of a sudden goes from like a kid who was about to flunk out of grade school to getting awards for being the best student in his class. That's priceless. You can't put a price to that. That's amazing. I've invested over $100,000 in my education.
With biomagnetism, Moses helped me avoid breast cancer surgery, chemotherapy, and everything that's involved with that type of surgery.
That's a person who got cured. So imagine like a treatment, like biomagnetism is a treatment. Like anyone who would learn biomagnetism, it'd be a steal at 10,000. I mean, what are people investing in cancer treatments? Hundreds of thousands. I don't know if you know this, but the average person spends about $2,500 in medicines and supplements managing their problem every single year. I would love to see that in your pocket. And, you know, in terms of a training, people wouldn't have a problem with $5,000. So I just want to point out to you that this training is happening and it's right around the corner, and I've got 1 or 2 more spots. If you want to make it, you're invited. It's only $14.97. I would say hop on. I don't know when the next one will be. There will be a next one, but this is what's happening in June. If you're not ready for this training, okay, this is what there is, okay? You can get the recalibration system, and because you have showed up, by the end of this talk tonight, I'm just going to copy the discount link and I'm going to shoot it over to you, okay? So you'll have this in your email. All of you signed up and all of you are here. That means you are receiving the email. So be on the lookout for that. I'll mail that to you. No taxes, free shipping. If you need something more basic, I'm going to also email you the link. You know, we do have like entry-level kits. So those you can find at savememagnets.com. And I want to be very clear about something. I'm not selling you anything, okay? This isn't what tonight is about. You already have the information, this is an opportunity for you to help yourself and to help others, okay? I'm showing you what I've learned over the years, and this is my gift to you all. And of course, you let me know how you want to be supported. I'm here. You want to hop on next month? We can, because you've thought of new questions, by all means, hop on. So to answer Dr. Pam's question about are the 5 formulas related to the 6-day recalibration method? Absolutely. So one of the things that I have found about the recalibration method is that all of us on Earth, we're all at different levels of understanding and motivation. There's learners, and then there's people that are like, I'd much rather you do the work for me. And then there's just like, well, I've never heard of this. I just need a little quick intro. I don't know what you're talking about. So what I ended up doing was I pulled out from the recalibration method, those formulas, and I put them in this little booklet, just a little quick start. And I know you just got that new book, right, Dr. Pam? So good. And within that book, I put in the instructions there of how you do that diagnosing. And
Thank you. Moises, do you think you can bring the screen back that says the time of the training? I know it's June 20th to 22nd, but what are the times?
That'll be from 10 to 5. There it is.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely. Congratulations. I appreciate you all being here. Know that I really love and appreciate all of you. I know that, being here is certainly, your time is valuable, and I don't take that lightly. So I hope that you all got something interesting and worthwhile tonight. Again, if you need anything, just let me know. Here, I'm at your service, okay? And if you don't tell me what can be better or what can be improved, then how is anything ever going to change, okay? One other piece of information that you should have for those of you that are in Southern California, I'm doing sound baths. So I play the piano for those of you that know that. I teamed up with someone who plays crystal bowls. So I invite everyone, bring your magnets. We apply magnets. The newbies that are showing up, I'm showing them, hey, use this formula. And last time we did it last month, it was amazing. People have never even knew biomagnetism existed, and they were just blown away with their tingling and the experience they were having. So if you're around May 18th, that's happening. And of course, you're all getting my emails. So just, they're all there. If you ever needed to communicate with me, just reply to any of those. I definitely get that information. So
someone wants to tell a story about their dad.
Yeah, so as you guys know, I'm a medical doctor. So for me, my belief, because I do integrative medicine, so I believe in the power of both worlds, the best of both worlds. So what happened, my dad suddenly became ill. He went into renal failure and basically multi-organ failure. Everything was shutting down. At the time, I was living in California. I flew home, was actually afraid to turn on my phone when the plane landed because I thought I was going to have a message saying that he didn't make it, because they told me he might not make it through the night. But he did. And when I got there, everything that could go wrong was going wrong. And as a medical doctor, I knew that it did not look good for my dad. He was like 81 years old at the time. And his doctor said he had, I think, like a less than 10% chance of survival. So after I got through my initial shock about that, I realized, wait a minute, let me call Moses, because Moses had actually worked on my dad before this, because before he went in the hospital, they found a spot on his kidney. And Moses did a distance healing, and whatever it was, it shrank a little bit, and then it stabilized. So they left it alone. And so Moses worked on him, and he just kind of rallied, just took a turn for the better. So over the course of his hospitalization, because my dad ended up staying in the hospital for like 2 months, whenever he would take a turn for the worse, I would call Moses. And so I think someone else had said something on their testimony like, thank God and thank Moses. And that's what I said. I was like, between prayer, traditional medicine, and Moses, that's what saved my dad's life. So you can use this along with something else that you may be doing more traditionally too. So don't let that put you off if you want to still listen to whatever your doctor is saying. Of course, I'm going to say that as a doctor, right? You can do it along with whatever your doctor is saying too, if you want to do that. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pam. I love it. I mean, you just said something very important, and most importantly, thank God. Most importantly, when I do these medical talks, it's, just common, just let me just stick to the science, but that's it. Most importantly, thank God. And you were gonna say,
I just have a quick testimony. I tripped and fell up the stairs on Monday morning and landed flat out on the deck at the top of the stairs and hit my left knee really hard. And we were just getting in the car to drive 4 hours to my husband's cancer therapy, and I needed that leg to use the clutch on that drive. And that happened Monday. Today is Wednesday, and there's a lot of time that I forgot that it even is hurt. And it had been swollen up. And I did put some arnica cream on it, but I used the magnets on it and the swelling went down. So the joint had better range of motion. And by today, there's a lot of time that I wasn't even thinking about it still. If you see my husband here, George has had Moses work on him directly for cancer. And in the MRI that he had in December, there was a tumor growing on his abdominal aorta with adhesions to his pancreas and duodenum areas. And Moses worked 4 sessions, 4 different times. And when he had the next MRI in March, that whole thing is gone. They had nothing to report in that area. At the same time, he still had cancer in his lungs that had grown. And so we're working on that now. George just had his second distance healing today. Just now, when he came to the table here, he finished up a session with the magnets. He had a reaction to the drugs that the doctor it's a natural functional doctor using some natural medicine medication in his IV therapy, but George reacted and had a neurotoxic reaction, staggering around, shaking, and very dysfunctional, weak as a baby. And he's just now pulling out of it. So we'll find out now if this distance treatment makes the big difference that he just finished up 5 minutes ago. So thank you, doctor. Thank you, doctor. Thanks for your story, doctor. And thank you, Moses, for all the help. And I will be at the class in June and be happy to see anyone else that will be there. Thank you.
awesome. Thank you, Valerie. Again, love you very much. Thank you for being here with me. And unless you have any other questions, we're all set for tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Take
Moses.
care.
And you said you're doing this every first
Thank you.
Every
first
first
Wednesday of
Wednesday of the month in
Mhm.
English. And the second Wednesday of the month, it's Spanish. So you want to practice some Espanol, Dr. Pam? Hop on.
Sí, hablo español un poquito.
Pues vas a hablar más.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll tell some people about it. Maybe I can get some people to come next month.
Sounds
Okay.
great. Well,
All
blessings
righty.
to you all.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Good
Bye.
night.
Thank you.